right, it was you and me.
Hello everyone, my name is Nayeema and welcome back to my channel, or two if you are new. And today we are going to be doing my April wrap-up. In April I read a total of 19 books. Some of them were really good, others were not so good, and I'm going to talk to you guys all about them. Also, if my energy feels really off today, I'm so sorry. I've just been not motivated to do anything, and I'm kind of forcing myself to film this video so I can just pull myself out of my slump. I'm in the reading slump again. I just got out of my reading slump and I am starting one once again. I am also just like not motivated to do school, not motivated to film videos and upload, but I'm pulling myself out of it. Today's video was actually supposed to be a 24-hour readathon vlog. I ended up failing that, so that vlog is just scrapped for now, and I might do one in a few weeks, but I have a week and a half left of school and I just need to pull myself out of this. So we're doing that with the wrap up today. I read 19 books. Some of them were really good, some of them sucked, and I'm gonna talk to you guys all about them. Okay, so the first book that I read in April was The Dare by Elle Kennedy. This was the last book in the Briar U series, and I just haven't gotten around to it for the longest time. I don't know why. I think it came out sometime over the summer and I just wasn't in the mood to read it, but I finally was in the mood with all the hype going around for this series, and I read it and I ended up giving it 4 stars. I'm pretty sure this is the only book in the Briar U and the Off-Campus series I ended up giving 4 stars. This one was not my favorite. I really did enjoy the beginning. I thought it was super fun. I love a good friends to lovers kind of fake dating trope relationship to read about, and I was really enjoying that aspect, but I started to get really annoyed with the main character, Taylor. She is just super insecure, and I have enough insecurities for me and all the main characters in a lifetime of books, so I just kind of got annoyed, and I just really wanted to read about a confident young woman. I get it, it's realistic, it was super realistic, but I just started to get bored, and it was like really boring me because I'm like, girl, this is a book. I'm trying to escape. I don't want to read about all your insecurities, you know? Thought it was super cute, but just wasn't enough for 5 stars. If you don't know what The Dare is about this girl named Taylor, and she's in a sorority. It's her senior year, I believe, and she kind of hates being in the sorority. All the girls are super mean, and she just doesn't enjoy her life. She's a bigger girl, she's super insecure about her body, and she only has one really good friend. And so at these sorority parties, they basically have to dare each other to do stuff. It's like a part of the rules or whatever. And so some of the mean girls dares Taylor to go up to Connor, I believe is his name, and she has to basically sleep with him. And she kind of goes up to him and is like, hey, can you just like play along? And he's like, yeah, sure. Connor's like the sweetest guy. They go upstairs, they pretend they're doing it, and then that leads them to kind of fake dating. It was super fun, just not enough for 5 stars for me. So the next book that I read, I ended up DNFing. I actually DNF'd a few books this month, which is really shocking. I never really DNF, but life is too short, that I'm realizing, and I am starting to DNF books, and it's completely fine. I've been living life. I'm like, this is not my vibe, and I DNF it. Maybe I'll try this one again later. This book series gets talked about a lot, but the first book was just not for me. This book was The Initiation by Nikki Salone. I DNF'd this on chapter 11. I was doing like a buddy read with some of my bookish friends, Heather from Here Booktubes, and some other people. She kind of like organized it, and we were all kind of like, this book is ass. Like, we did not like it, and I just was not in the mood for it. I was super excited for the other books that I was planning to read in the month, and this book was not doing it for me. It's like a secret society-esque book. The heroine's sister was actually promised to this guy, but then she ended up something happened with her, so she couldn't marry the guy anymore, and that means that the younger sister had to marry him. And basically the hero's family has a bunch of stuff over the heroine's family, and she has to do this for her family, and it just was really boring and it wasn't good. And the hero was supposed to be this bad boy, badass guy, but he was scared of his own shadow and scared of his dad, which I understand. He was in an emotionally abusive relationship with his family, but I was just completely bored and I wasn't liking it. And he just seemed kind of like dumb in a way. Like, he just wasn't clicking that, you know, like, I don't know, it was really weird. Wasn't liking it, so I ended up DNFing this. The next books that I read were all part of a series, and I read them and recommended them in my best romance book series to binge video, and that is the Homemade series by Daniel Lowry. I ended up really enjoying every single one of the books in the series, so much that I went and bought them. I gave each of them 5 stars. If you haven't seen the recommendation video, I will have it linked down below. But we have The Sweetest Oblivion, The Maddest Obsession, and The Darkest Temptation. These are all mafia romances, and they were so fun. The first one is The Sweetest Oblivion, and it is a forbidden romance. The hero is actually promised to the heroine's sister, so that was super fun. So much tension, so much lust, and it was amazing. The second one was really good. This ended up being my second favorite in the series, and it follows Gianna, who's kind of like in the mafia world. Her father's like a capo. She's married a few guys just because her dad is always pushing her to marry people in the mafia. And then the hero is actually like a dirty cop who does stuff for the mafia. And so this one was really, really good. I loved it. And the third one was my favorite, and that is The Darkest Temptation. And this one follows the hero in The Maddest Obsession's brother in Russia, and this girl who's visiting Russia to find out more about her dad because her dad has never been around, and she ends up at the enemy's doorstep, and it was so good. I love this one. This one is my favorite. Each of these books were 5 stars for me, and I ended up really enjoying my time with them. The next book that I read was Bully by Penelope Douglas. I'm slowly trying to make my way through Penelope Douglas's back list. I mean, I've read Birthday Girl, Credence, Punk 57, all of the Devil's Night series, but I didn't read like her Bully series type of thing, like her very first books. I'm pretty sure Bully is her first book that she ever came out with, and it was very evident in her writing. I did not enjoy this. This is probably like my least favorite Penelope Douglas. I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars, and if you don't know what Bully is about, Bully follows this girl, and she was once best friends with this guy. They were best friends all throughout growing up, but then one day he goes away for a summer, comes back, and ends up hating her, and he bullies her all throughout high school. And so the heroine, she goes away for some time and comes back, and she's like, you know what, this is going to be my year. I'm not gonna let this guy walk all over me. I'm gonna start standing up for myself. And I really enjoyed it. There were like some trigger warnings. There was like casual sexual assault, super, you know, normalized sexual assault, and it kind of grated on my nerves, and I didn't really enjoy this. I love a good bully romance, but this guy wasn't really bullying her. Like, I kind of wanted him to be more mean. I know I'm crazy, but I kind of wanted him to be more mean, and he just wasn't giving me that. There was stuff with the friend of the heroine and the friends of the hero, and it just was not enjoyable for me. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. I still enjoyed my time with it, but it was not my favorite Penelope Douglas by far. The next 3 books I read were also mentioned in my best bingeable romance books recommendations, so again, I'll have that video linked down below, but it was the whole Hot and Hammered series by Tessa Bailey. The first one is Fix Her Up, the second one is Love Her or Lose Her, and the third one is Tools of Engagement. And I really loved every single book in the series. I'm pretty sure I gave each of them 5 stars. They were just so funny. Some moments were incredibly cringy, but I didn't find that at all. Like, for some reason, like, I can just look past it. Like, some people, when they cringe in romance books or cringe in books in general, like, they can't get past it, but I surely can if I'm having an amazing time. The smut was amazing. Everything about this series was so good. First one is a brother's best friend trope. Second one is already an established relationship, and they're trying to work things out and, you know, fix their relationship, which I love that. Love Her or Lose Her ended up being my favorite in the series. And the third one is kind of like a hate to love, rivals to lovers type of situation, and it was a lot of fun as well. The next book that I read was Flock by Kate Stewart. I ended up reading this because everybody on TikTok raves about this book, and I need to continue the series. The first one is kind of like an open relationship type of romance. She has to stay with her dad for a few years. It's like an agreement between her parents, and she has to stay in this town that she doesn't really know anything of. Her dad is a super rich guy. He owns like tons of factories all throughout the world, and one is actually in the town that she's staying in, so she has to work for him over the summer. And there she meets this guy, and he's super like interested in her, and she's kind of interested in him. He ends up inviting her to go to a party and meet his friends, and it was super fun. Some things really did aggravate me. This is another type of secret society type of book. I was hella confused. I will say by the end of this book, I was like, what did I just read? I did enjoy it though. I gave it 4 stars, and I thought it was super fun. There's definitely a guy that I want her to end up with. I'm not sure if this is going to end up being like a love triangle type of situation, because right now they're all just kind of in an open, it's a reverse harem type of relationship, which I wouldn't mind, but I do have somebody in mind that I really want her to end up with. So I need to continue with the second book and see if that relationship works out. One guy is super sunshiny and wants to live life to the fullest, and the other one is super grumpy, which I just love. You can probably already tell which guy I want her to end up with, but I just loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun, but I just need more clarity on things. Maybe I'll get that with the second book, but the first book had me a little bit confused. In my review, I was like, I may just be a simpleton, but I don't get it. Like, I do not get this, but it was fun. The next book that I read was Buttons and Lace by Penelope Sky, and this is another book that I ended up DNFing in April. This book, I DNF'd it at like 20%. My first initial thought with this book was that the writing was terrible. Like, I was trying to see if this was her first book. I don't think it was, but the writing was awful. Like, I've read Wattpad stories better than this. Like, the writing was despicable. Like, I could not stand the writing. I thought it was really weird. Like, in the beginning, the heroine could not stop talking about sex, and it really aggravated me. I was like, girl, why is she, like, the book starts off with her and her husband, and she's super unhappy in her relationship with him, and every sentence, I kid you not, she's talking about how she doesn't have sex with him anymore. And I was like, I don't care. Like, what? I do not care. And it just kept being brought up. And in the very beginning, a guy knocks on the door and is like, is your husband home? Like, he needs to pay us back, otherwise something will happen. And so she kind of ignores that completely, doesn't really think about it, and that really aggravated me. Like, if somebody was knocking on my door and saying, like, you need to pay me, like, your husband needs to pay me back, I'd be like, what? Like, what is going on? Like I would need to know, but that kind of went over her head. Captor romance, and I just wasn't in the mood for it. Maybe I'll try it again one day, because this series is really beloved by a few people. I actually haven't heard many people talking about it on booktube, but on book talk is where I found it, and people love this series, and I was like, this book is awful, so I DNF'd it at 20%. The next book I also DNF'd. It was What He Doesn't Know by Candy Steiner. This book was super weird as well. I feel like lots of books I read this month, I usually really enjoy weird romance books, but I was just not in the mood for that this month. And so this one, I just felt really bad vibes from this book for some reason. Like, the energy was really off while reading this. It's this girl and it's a love triangle. Apparently I did not make it far enough, but I know that this book is a love triangle. I DNF'd it at around 25%, and this girl is in a relationship, in a marriage actually, and she's just super unhappy in her marriage. And she's a teacher, and the new teacher is actually somebody that she used to know. She grew up with him, and she had a crush on him when she was younger, and I guess she starts to explore those feelings again with him. I just was not in the mood for this, so I DNF'd it super early at 25%. Maybe I'll pick it up one day, because I really typically do enjoy love triangles, but honey, this was not it. The next book that I read was Voyeur by Fiona Cole, and I really wanted to love this book, but I unfortunately didn't. I gave it 3 stars, and it is a teacher-student romance, which I'm starting to think that teacher-student romances aren't for me. I usually love taboo relationships, but I don't know, this one skeeved me out a little bit. I found the hero to be incredibly whiny and like a sleazeball, and I just didn't enjoy it. So it follows our heroine, and our heroine has money problems. She's in college, and her parents call her up and say, we won't be able to help you pay for next semester. And she's like, oh no, what am I going to do? And her friend is like, how about you start working at Voyeur? And Voyeur is kind of like a watch club. Like, people, it's like a very high class type of club. People will perform sexual acts, and you pay to watch. It's not like you don't pay to sleep with someone. It's not like a sex club or whatever. You just pay to watch. And I thought the concept was really cool. I thought it was super like futuristic. Like, you have iPads and you suggest people and different scenes, and I thought that was super fun. But when we find out that one of her watchers or whatever is actually her teacher, and he kept going back, I felt super grossed out. I was not in the mood for it. I thought he was super whiny, and I just didn't feel super connected to the characters, so I ended up giving this one 3 stars. So after I started DNFing books, I started to get into a little bit of a reading slump, and the book that took me out of it was Ricochet by Krista and Becca Ritchie. I ended up reading Addicted to You back in October when Audible Escape was ending, and I finally wanted to continue the series, so I read Ricochet, and this book really got me out of my reading slump. It was so good. If you don't know what the Addicted series is about, it basically follows Lo and Lily. Lo is addicted to alcohol and Lily is addicted to sex, and it's kind of like a childhood friends to lover situation and a fake dating thing. So they've been friends for as long as they could remember. They're family friends and everything like that. And so when they go off to college, they decide to start fake dating because they kind of want to have their parents be off their back. They want to use each other and enable each other, and that's what ends up happening. They enable each other all throughout their fake dating, and they help each other out and conceal their addictions. By the end of the Addicted to You first book, they kind of realize that this isn't good anymore and they want to get help, and there's people in their life who actually want to help them. And so in the second book, it follows Lo and Lily again. Lo is away at rehab trying to get treatment for his alcohol addiction, and Lily is kind of waiting for him, and she's trying to work on herself and trying to get better and not addicted to sex anymore. And I really was proud of Lily throughout this entire book, and this book made me so excited to read about Rose and Connor and Reich and Daisy. I'm so excited for those books. I love this book so much. It got me out of my reading slump. Unfortunately, I'm back in one, so I might read the third one right after I film this, but yeah, I really did enjoy this book. The next book that I read was Bitter Heat by Mia Knight, and I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I almost DNF'd it, and I'm so glad that I didn't. This book has been on my TBR for a while, and it's categorized as a dark romance, and I wouldn't say it's incredibly dark. It's just the toxic relationship aspect, which I think is kind of dark. So Bitter Heat follows our heroine Jasmine, and so basically Jasmine is a part of a super rich family, which has been kind of like a daddy's girl. Like, she always wanted to make him happy. Back in the day, the dad arranged her to marry this guy who's from another influential family, but Jasmine ended up falling in love with somebody else, and they kind of ran away and got married, and they were happy for some time, but then the husband started to turn a little bit kind of psycho. The hero was always obsessed with money, and he wanted to, you know, like social climb and be on top and be influential and have all this money and be a powerful businessman, and almost to his detriment. So basically the heroine, he started treating her very badly in their marriage, and she decided to divorce him because he wasn't treating her right. And so years go by. I think it's like 5 years, and the heroine has actually kept a close relationship with the hero's mom. So the hero's mom invited the heroine to come visit her, and while she's there, the mom gets into an accident and ends up in the hospital. And because of this, the doctors have to call the hero to come visit the mom. And so he comes and visits the mom and doesn't expect to see Jasmine there, and that kind of opens a huge can of worms. They're snowed in there and they're stuck together, and they have to kind of like talk about things that have gone wrong. The tea in this was super hot. I loved it. Like, everything about this book was really good. I ended up giving it 4 stars, and yeah, it was just super toxic, a super toxic relationship. The second book to the series is not out yet, and I'm waiting patiently for it because I am so excited. The next book that I read was A Heart of Blood and Ashes by Mila Vane, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I really did enjoy this book. I was expecting to love it. I didn't love it just because there was a lot of talk about politics and in their world, and I just wasn't super intrigued with that. So I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. It was still really good. I just wasn't into the whole politics stuff. So basically, this follows our hero and heroine. It has like a dual perspective. It's like kind of in like Viking, gladiator. It's a fantasy romance. The hero just gets word that his parents were killed by a neighboring village, or like a village in the community or something like that, by the leaders of that village. He hates that these people killed his parents. He loves his parents and he wants them to pay. And so on his journey to kind of like figure things out, he meets the daughter of the guy who killed his parents. The heroine is trying to explain to him that she hates her family too. She doesn't like what they did. She ended up actually meeting the hero's parents before they got killed, and she wants to help and get revenge, and she wants freedom, and she's kind of like this silent but powerful leader, and he's like this Viking overprotective guy. And both decide that they were going to get married and get revenge and basically take down that other, I don't even know how to explain it, like it's like a town, kind of like a village. And that's what happens. Basically like a journey. She has to get pregnant to solidify the marriage, and I enjoyed it. Again, there was a lot of talk about politics, and a lot of it I was super confused by. I want to read this again one day because I kind of flew through this, and wasn't really taking my time with it. I really did enjoy it. The next book that I read was Teach Me by Olivia Dade, and I ended up giving this book 3 stars. First of all, Olivia Dade's covers are just so beautiful. I love the drawn aspect, and I'm pretty sure all of her characters are plus size. All of her heroines are, and I'm pretty sure they all love their body, which is super refreshing to read about. And Teach Me follows 2 teachers, and they're both history teachers in the social studies department in high school. The book starts off with the heroine. She doesn't get good news. Basically, there's a new teacher in town, and he is taking half of her classes and has to stay in her classroom for 2 periods, her planning periods, and she kind of hates that. This was kind of set into motion by a misogynistic colleague of hers who really hates her and hates powerful women who are doing good things, and he just didn't want to see her thrive. And so he has this guy come in and change things up and shake things around, and she's not really into that. She was determined not to like him and not give him the time of day, but she ends up realizing that he's actually such a kind soul and really sweet, and she shouldn't blame him for that other guy's misogynistic, disgusting ways. So they end up really respecting each other, and that forms into a relationship. I thought the chemistry felt really forced. I actually thought there was little to no chemistry. I thought it was really weird, like there was a sudden shift, and so I didn't really enjoy that. So I ended up giving it 3 stars. I did think it was really cute though, and I enjoyed the small town aspect. I kind of wish we got more like small town scenes, because I'm starting to realize I like small town romances after reading the Hot and Hammered series, so I wish I got more of that. The whole series is called There's Something About Marysburg, so I was super excited to read about like a small town, but this book just wasn't really doing it for me. I do want to read the other 2 books and There's Something About Marysburg series, and then also spoiler alert, yeah, this one was not doing it for me. The next book that I read was Under Lock by Mariana Zapata, and this is the 3rd Mariana Zapata that I've read. I read The Wall of Winnipeg and Me and Colty, and this was the 3rd one, and I really liked it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. Under Lock follows Iris, and she recently moved to Austin to live with her brother because she just lost her job and she isn't able to support herself, so she moves in with her brother in Austin, and her brother sets her up with the job at a tattoo shop. The owner of the tattoo shop is named Dex, and he's the hero. He's just kind of like an asshole. They have to learn to work with each other and respect each other, and I thought it was super fun. It's definitely like a grumpy sunshine situation. There's lots of drama in here, and I really enjoyed my time with it. It just wasn't my favorite Mariana Zapata. I think Colty is probably my favorite one, but I really did enjoy it, and I love the whole like man with tattoo aspect. It's also an MC club romance, which I really enjoyed, so it was fun, but it was not my favorite, unfortunately. And the last book that I read was The Perfect First by Maya Hughes, and I really wanted to read this because I see the series compared to the Off Campus and Briar U series all the time, so I was like, why not give this one a try? And I ended up really enjoying this one. I gave it 4 stars, and this book follows Reese and Persephone, or Seth, and Reese is the star football player at Fulton University. Everybody knows who he is. Everybody loves him. Everybody loves the football team. They're winners, and right off the bat, I kind of noticed that he was like a major asshole, not in the way that I like in romance books, but he was just super cocky. He acted like his shit didn't stink and that he was untouchable and that he could just go around and do whatever he wanted, which kind of annoyed me, but I pushed through and I got past that, and I ended up really enjoying him. So the heroine, Seth, she has spent her whole life very sheltered because she's in an emotionally abusive relationship with her father. Her dad emotionally abuses her and is just really terrible to her, and because of this, she doesn't have really many experiences with people and many friends. When she was younger, her dad wouldn't let her play outside because she should be studying and playing violin and getting better and doing all these things, and she didn't really get the chance to be a normal kid. So when she got to university, she was super excited about it, but her dad was like, I don't want you there, I want you at Harvard. She actually has like a photographic memory, I believe. She's able to graduate the university super early and start her master's program. She's only like 19, I believe. And so when her dad's like, you have to go to Harvard, you have to, like, you're not finishing out there, you're not finishing your 4 years there, she realizes that she wants to complete a bunch of things in the 7 months that she's there and not waste her time, because what she knows when she gets home, she's going to have to deal with all this. Basically, she realizes that she doesn't have a lot of time to complete all the things that she wanted to and live out her college experience. She doesn't have many friends on campus. In fact, she has 0, and she decides to put out an ad. The first thing on her list is she wants to lose her virginity, and she decides to conduct kind of like interviews, and she puts out an ad, and there she meets the hero. The hero thinks she's someone else, and he sits down and meets with her, and he's realizing that this is not like the meeting that he was expecting. She's asking a bunch of weird questions, and he's like super confused. She explains to him what the interview is for, and he's like, oh, this is not what I was expecting, but you should be really careful. He kind of has this protectiveness over her. He hates that she's doing this, and he's confused as to why she's doing this, and so they kind of form a friendship, and he's going to help her complete all the things on her list except for number one, which was to have sex with someone. He doesn't want to do that. He's graduating soon, and he just doesn't want to help her with that aspect. And so they form a friendship, of course. Feelings and romance ensues, and it's super cute and super fun, and I really thought it was such a good time. I really thought the emotional abuse aspects in here were handled so well. They both had their issues, and they had to work out, and they did, and I thought they handled them in such amazing ways. And I actually cried because I just thought that the heroine was so strong and amazing, and I really felt for her and all that she was going through with her family, and it just ended up being perfect, and I loved it. I gave it 5 stars, and I'm kind of debating on whether or not I'm going to finish the series. Right now I'm not in the mood to read anything, so maybe once I get out of that like slump, maybe I'll want to continue with the series. But the first book was really good. Another reason why I think that I'm just not really in the mood to continue with the series is just because like I feel like we didn't get enough of the side characters in this book. Like I wanted to read more about the side characters to get me hyped up for their books, but I wasn't really getting that, so I'm just kind of like meh, maybe I'll read them, maybe I won't. But for now, I'm in a reading slump, and I need your help. Please recommend books down below to get me out of my reading slump. I need it. I'm just in a slumpy mood in general, so this was good that I finally sat down and filmed my wrap up for you guys. Let me know down below some books that you guys read in April that you really enjoyed and think I should give a try. I'm always looking for more recommendations, so let me know down below. And yeah, that was the last book that I read in April. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to leave a big like and a comment down below. It truly helps support me and my channel. And yeah, that is all. I love you guys so much, and I will see you on Friday with the recommendation video. Bye!
If I got one thing right, it was you and me.